A lot of other things. Woohoo.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. I'm Katherine. My pen name is Katherine Bond. I'm a fiction fantasy novelist.
Nice.
By day, I am a Starbucks barista, also at Old Dominion University.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should link up all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess, hi, I'm Tara. I am an author. During the day, I'm a technical editor for the United States Marine Corps. And in the evening, I am an author and fiction editor / publisher at a publishing cooperative called Dreampunk Press.
Ooh,
and I got into cosplay
cool.
about a dozen years ago. My kid dragged me off to NecoCon, fell in love with it. And that's my con buddy there, my kid.
Aww.
So
That's
my favorite
wonderful.
anime is Yuri on Ice.
Ah!
Love Yuri on Ice.
That's rad. That's hilarious. That's so good.
Okay, so we'll start with our first question, which is what inspired you to become a creator and what got you interested in going to conventions in general? So whoever wants to go first.
I don't know if you want to keep it going on the rounds like how we've been doing. So Sarah, if you want to go first.
Sure. I got into comics, I want to say 9 years ago when I first came across my first comic book. I never read one before, not even in my childhood. Came across it, started reading it. I thought the medium was just fascinating to me, and I've been just looking into it ever since and studying it, even putting it in my research. And I've just put my illustration efforts towards that really ever since.
What was the comic?
I think it was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh,
yeah.
What a start.
yeah, it was some start, but it then got me into others, and I feel like I have a wider variety that I pull from and reference and feel inspired by, but that was my start.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was inspired by the structure of it as a medium for learning and getting information and telling stories.
Very cool. Awesome. I'll go next. What got me started, I know that like I've been like making stuff ever since I was a kid. I do know that like the first things that like really got me excited were like Pokemon and Neopets. Definitely like made my own like Pokemon and like Neopets fan fiction and all that good stuff. I didn't start going to conventions though until like after college for sure. So was late to the train on that one. I think like NecoCon was my first one was Ring of Fire Con, which was about 6 years ago, maybe something like that. And I cosplayed as Cubone. It was great.
Something similar with me as well, but I've always been fascinated with like just stories. It all started when I was a kid with Barbies. I would create like my own little stories with the Barbies and stuff like that. And then one of my classmates just introduced me to, I can't remember what the name of it is, but like Cartoon Network, where they had like Sailor Moon and Ronin Warriors and all that stuff up there. There you go. Yes. Yeah. So I started like just getting in like, engulfed in all that, and of course you know the Dragon Ball Z's, and like my favorite is it might be like a little kitty, but Fruits Baskets, love it. So freaking adorable.
Have you seen the new series?
I have. I just looked in and saw that it's on Hulu, so I just rewatched it over again, and I'm just it just brings out the little kitty romance in me that's still always there. Conventions didn't get into, I didn't find my people until college. Like I never even thought about like going to conventions. Of course, you're always fascinated with the big one, which is in California, but I didn't know about the little small ones like RaveCon and all this, the Hampton one that's close by. So I think my first one was Richmond. I traveled to Richmond to go to the Virginia Con up there. So yeah, I was a little late to the cosplay convention game. So it was like college.
Yeah, for sure.
So my intro to the whole convention thing is even later, trust me. My earliest memories, my brother's friends would come over and would be playing D&D, and they would let me play. And I can remember my grandmother playing with us. And it became
Wow.
where the D&D was, happened was at my grandmother's house.
Legendary.
And I, kind of got to play with the guys. And that was more years ago than I'm going to admit on here, because it's probably longer than most of you've been around. But like I said, about a dozen years ago, my kid dragged me to IconiCon, and I didn't really cosplay anything. I just dressed up and had a ball, absolute blast. And so I played, cosplayed a Castiel to their dean at the first Tidewater Comic Con we went to, and had a blast.
That's
I play
rad.
a very good Castiel, I guess. And it was great. And we have a lot of fun. Sometimes they do art, I do books. We table at some of the local cons and stuff. And it's such a great thing. And I feel bad because I missed a lot and I'm trying to make up for it. But yeah, as someone who got asked a lot, when I would mention that I let my kid go to conventions, a lot of my peers are like, I can't believe, why are you? And I'm like, hey, have you ever been to one? They're fun. They're great. You get to be yourself in a way that you can't really anywhere else. So that was kind of my reintroduction to fandoms, and having fun, and I'm not letting up on it now. I'm too old.
That's
I
really
have
great.
so much respect for you. Like, I can't even tell you how much respect I have for you. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
So Tara, you kind of talked about a female role model that you had, but so what were some other female role models that you guys had growing up in fandom, in media, just in your life, that got you into like your fandom and your creating and stuff like that, and why were they so important to you?
Well, this will reveal my age, but there's a lot, and I decided that I'd mention two, one from a cartoon and one from a live action TV, with actors and actresses. For cartoons, when I was really young, I liked Rocket Power, and
Nice.
One of the characters that I really liked was Reggie Rocket. She was just all about going for it, and she tended to wear like boyish clothes, and she was different, but she was awesome, and she just went for whatever she wanted, and I loved it. And for live action TV, I have to say it, Buffy Summer, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like yeah. So
Awesome. I love it. For me, I feel like I actually didn't have a lot of good female representation whenever I was coming up. The most that I can really think about was not like Sakura from Naruto, and I hated her, and I hated Ino, and like there were never like any cool like anime girls. Like Sailor Moon just like wasn't really on my radar as much. I don't really know why. I love the transformations, but that was about as much as I connected with it. But I do remember like whenever I was growing up, I was like shocked to find out that the person who made Inuyasha, the mangaka, was a girl. I was like, what? And like I shouldn't have been surprised because it's a romance, but like there was like action and like violence and like blood and stuff, and I'm like, a girl did this, and then I found out that like the person who made Full Metal Alchemist, like one of the biggest classics of all time, was also a woman, and I was like, that's ridiculous. So honestly, like, yeah, there wasn't really all that much that I really leaned on, but like nowadays there are so many awesome like female led whatever coming out, And not even stuff that's like in your face, just straight up like good girl content that isn't like, you know, like pandering. So I'm about it.
That's kind of my experience as well. I didn't really have a lot of female inspiration growing up, only because in my family, I was the only female that was into all this stuff. And I was surrounded by like nothing but guys, like my brother, my cousins. Those were the ones that like really influenced me. And it wasn't until I started college that I met my friend who, I don't know how the conversation just happened, but she was like, yeah, I write, I'm a graphic designer and I make like comics on the side. I'm like, oh wow. And she showed me a couple of her work, and it was like featured in a lot of articles and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, you're amazing, you're great. She was like, yeah, I know it's kind of weird, but you know, I am into like anime and all that. I'm like, oh my god, me too. So ever since then we've been inseparable. She's the one that like drags me to the conventions and stuff like that with her. So she was actually the one that booked my first actual Comic-Con, which was in Hampton. So I was actually a artist gallery there. So it was just really wonderful to have like another female like that likes the things that I like, and you know, I'm just like not ashamed and all that kind of stuff to actually like embrace that part of myself. Because I don't know, for growing up, it was just like this hidden little secret that, you know, I like anime. You know, so it was really refreshing in college to finally like find another person that loves the same stuff that I love. So she was definitely 100% my inspiration and role model.
Nice, awesome. I'm glad that you had someone there for you.
Yes, it was so refreshing. It was really, really refreshing to find out that, oh, you're not alone. You're not weird. There are people that love this stuff too, and there's no problem with that. So she was just.
And it's not just the boys, though.
And it's not just the boys. It's not just the boys. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Yes.
And I think, I mean, I mentioned my grandmother who encouraged all of her grandkids to do what they wanted. But I also mentioned it took a while for me to kind of find my people. Mm-hmm. And I've been able to actually introduce a lady I work with who, prior Marine, okay, a retired gunny. And she went to one with her son, and she's walking around and she stops in front of my table and says, Tara, what are you doing here? And I looked at her and I said, hi, Anne. I said, this is what I do in my spare time. And I'm dressed up steampunk because I write steampunk. I have steampunk novels on the table. And we start talking. And so she's been my table buddy at a couple of cons now. And she just comes, and it's great fun. And, you know, because it's also somebody my own age. And it's kind of nice to see her getting introduced to something that she didn't know existed. And she did Richmond GalaxyCon with me last year, because this year's was canceled. And she had a blast going around and getting some autograph stuff for her son and for her husband. And so, you know, whatever age you are, if you like this, you can do it, you can enjoy it. And it's nice having somebody, you know, my own age. My husband's not into it, he's into cars.
Yes.
So it's kind of nice. And I think, you know, there's a little bit of inspiration there for me, because she just absolutely loves it when we're there. And it's a bit of an inspiration. I'm a little bit more of an introvert behind my table talking about my books. And she just like, can I go over? I'm like, go in. And she's just running around absolutely being very respectful, asking to take pictures. Who are you dressed up as? And yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome. That
That's
makes me really
great.
Happy. Yeah. That's a real success story there.
So our next question is, what struggles, if any, have you faced as a female identifying person in the creator space, or even in the cosplay community as well?
I think when I first started joining comics creators meetings and groups, it was mostly men. But over time, more women identifying people like Kristin joined in. And at first, it felt like I was the only woman identifying person. But eventually, that more women came, and I didn't feel that way anymore.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember the first day that like I came to the came to the 757 Comic and Creators Club, and like you definitely were like the only girl there. It was like, hi.
Yep.
Yep, that'll do it for you. Honestly, like as a girl, I really haven't faced like too much like hatred from people who are like, you know, like, oh, you know, like what do you really know, you know, you're a girl, you're not a nerd. I don't know. I haven't really faced that as much. But I definitely on that boat of like, you know, like finding your people for sure. Like growing up, like DeviantArt was like where like I had like my people. Like I knew like one other girl in high school that I was like really tight with that I could be nerdy with. But yeah, I haven't faced like a lot of hatred, but like definitely like, you know, like where do you go to like actually find, you know, the people who are interested in the things that you're interested in? For a very long time it was internet only, until probably like again like college and like things after that. So yeah, especially when you have niche interests, it's just hard to find people, but it's a lot better now.
For me, not so much any struggles as like a woman, but I have noticed a little bit more shocked when they find out that not only am I a woman, but I'm Black. So I've definitely had those people who kind of are surprised at when I tell them what genre I'm writing in. So when they're like, oh, what do you write? I'm like, yeah, fantasy, you know, supernatural, paranormal. They got superpowers, you know, they're fairies, you know. And they're like, oh, okay. I didn't expect that. Okay. And also when I went to a convention, one girl walked past and she was like, I bought this book. I'm like, oh, you did? She's like, yeah, I bought it off of Amazon. I'm like, oh, that's great. She was like, did you write this? Like, yeah, I'm the author. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. So that was another reason behind my pen name. So like, you can't really know that not only am I like a woman, but I'm Black. So it's like, it's just to separate myself from the story. I don't want people to like look at me and then like perceive what kind of story I'm about to tell you or something like that, or stereotype it or anything like that. I want you to look at the story and then the author second. So I've definitely had a couple of, you know, surprise looks, especially for my family. Like they're just like, I knew it was going to be that fantasy weird stuff that you're into. I'm like, it's not weird. Like, it's not weird. But after they read it, they're like, oh, this is amazing. So they've been very, very, very supportive and very like inspiring for me to see that they finally have embraced my weird side and accept me and love me for who I am. And it's just like this whole experience as a creator has been very humbling and inspiring, and I'm just happy to be here with all of you guys.
Well,
we're excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear about, you know, the reason for the pen name, because that's total BS. But complete BS. But yeah, we're very happy to have you, and I'm glad that your family like came around.
Yes, it's awesome.
So we're talking 38 years ago when I was a young teen. And I think, like I said, you know, D&D comics, they were all boy things. And my grandmother encouraged me to write, you know, said, hey, you know, when my brother and his friends were over playing D&D, it's like, look, no, there's no exclusion in this house. yeah, I had a single mom. We lived with my grandparents. And while I see as an adult now, and when I was taking my kid to cons and stuff, a little bit more acceptance. I still see sometimes there's a little bit of a, you're a girl, you're a woman. How old are you? And I tend to, when I cosplay with my kid, and when I try to cosplay my mom, I cosplay male characters. And so sometimes there's a side glance that, you know, when you're cosplaying a different gender or a different sex or a different type of character than, but I think that's across the board sometimes. I think one of the best things I ever saw was at MarsCon last year. A young man came in. I didn't recognize the character, but he was cosplaying a female, and it was great. And I think we still have a long way to go for there to be equity in everything. But I see, you know, now it's better than when I was a kid. Unfortunately, that's 35 to 38 years to get there. And I do hope that it's not that much time, again, before there is a complete equity between everybody being able to enjoy what they enjoy without those, you know, the sidelong glances and the snotty comments.
Well, thank you for helping, you know, blaze the trail there. I know that, like, you know, that's, you know, you probably wouldn't have wanted it to be that way, but thank you for your service.
Absolutely. I'm going to be doing this for 30 years to come as well. I'm not going to stop.
Awesome. Radical.
And this is actually a great segue into the next question, which is what impact do you hope your work will leave on younger future fans?
Well, I guess I can speak to the themes that I typically do in my comics. My comics are around like complex philosophical topics that I deconstruct and put into the story. And speaking to that, I think if you want to do something like that, you can. And I know a lot in philosophy, philosophers are seen as white guys with beards, but sometimes women, and sometimes they're women of color. And so, you know, yeah,
Absolutely.
I would say that you can cover really complex ideas and dig into texts and pull them out.
Absolutely. As a teacher, I fully feel what you're saying of just like the idea of passing on that you can do it too. I think that's pretty much like the crux, like the most important thing that, like, you know, you can do as a creator is to inspire like somebody else, like who, like, you know, if they've had an inkling about wanting to like explore something, you know, like to like help, you know, help them get to that place where they are making things. And even enlightening them on the parts that are not fun, because that's very much a reality as far as like everything else. And it's just like, hey, I just don't want you to be blindsided by the reality of like how, you know, things can suck sometimes. But just kind of like helping people along. Yeah, for sure. Just, yeah, you want to make something, go make it. Like Sarah was saying, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's what I hope for people to see, because it's a little unconventional for me, only because writing has never been something that I thought of doing, because my major currently right now is accounting, and I'm a Starbucks barista. So like, I just want people to know that if it's in your heart and there's something that you have and it's a wonderful thing that you want to share, do it. Like, I want them to know that you can have a day job, you can have a part-time job, you can have a hobby, you can like be a mom, because I'm a mom, so you can do all of that and still, you know, be happy and be yourself. And I just want them everyone to know that it's possible to do anything and everything that you set your mind with. Because 3 years ago, I never would have thought I would write a novel. And here I am, like 6 novels in. So
that's a lot of work. Dude, that's a lot of freaking work.
It is.
3 years?
It is.
God.
And that's why I said it's like once you have it and you feel it, you're not going to be able to stop. Like it clicked for me, and it just was something that I just never thought would ever be something that I would be passionate about, because I've always loved reading. I have thousands of comic books. I have novels and everything, but I never really thought like, oh, hey, I would someday, be behind the pen. So I just want people to know that it's never too late. Like, if you don't start now, if you start 10 years from now, it doesn't matter when you start. So I hope people understand, like, I started writing at 29. So you can do whatever you want. If there's no time limit on, being inspired. So I hope everyone follows through on their life and their happiness and whatever makes them happy.
And Katie, I don't know if you noticed, but in the chat, somebody wanted to know the title of your novel.
It's Phantom Nights. So it's an ongoing series right now. So Phantom Nights series, and you can find it on Amazon at KB Bond. You can search KB Bond or Phantom Nights series.
Rad.
So you finished started your first novel at 20. I finished my first novel at 29, and it took me 3 years to get it finished. Of course, at 26 is when I had the kid and got out of the Navy. And yeah, I am. Yeah, once you finish that first one.
Yes.
I had a Robert Arthur at TCC. He said, you finish. He says, it doesn't matter if it's crap. You have to get to the end and finish. And I know people who do, they take 10 years and they're still writing the same story because it's not done. And he said, sometimes you got to stay done. You got to be finished and feel that awesomeness of having created something. Then you have to edit the heck out of it. Luckily, I'm an editor. That's my day job. So I kind of, one, I know what I'm doing, and two, I also know that somebody, sometimes you have to give it to somebody else to edit it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and I kind of hope, people don't wait, to start. Don't wait until the time is right. I know so many people my age, maybe a little bit younger, that are like, oh yeah, well, I've always wanted to, and do it, because if you don't start, you can never finish. And I know with some of my novels, I have a non-binary adult child, but I know at middle school ages, there was nothing for them to read that they saw themselves in. And so, some of them worked with them on, and they're not angsty. They're just a character on an adventure. And guess what? So that's what I hope, is to inspire and to have kids like that are middle school young adults now in that same, going through that same thing that my kid was going through, to see some books. I'm like, hey, I remember I was at IconiCon, and I had a young lady come up, and she's looking with her friend or whatever, and one picked up one of them and says, oh, this is about 2 girls. Oh wow, whatever. I said, yeah. I said, so this is my this one's got my my trans non-binary character, and this is my ace baby one over here. And the girl went, what? No, what? And I said, yeah. I said, it's not really romance because she's ace, but there's an attempt from the guy, and it's steampunk, and it's set in, and I hope she liked it. But she was just so thrilled that there was a book with a character that she might be able to identify with it. And that's what I want, and that's what I hope to do with my writing. And I think that one of the good things about cosplay is you to be that, you get to do that. And at conventions and cons, that's the true beauty of them. you get to go. And while at home or at school, there's a mold you have to fit, you go to a con and you get to kind of be yourself, your real self, and kind of find out who you really are.
Absolutely. It's really, really inspiring.
I really truly hope we get more of that diversity coming in. I mean, I know there's lots of people trying. Hopefully that push becomes an even bigger wave, and just really takes over, and becomes the norm, and it's not an out of the ordinary kind of thing. But speaking about that, how open to diversity has the creator space been, and the fandom community at large, since you started working and creating and things like that?
I would say it's been pretty open. Even the days when I began joining the comics group, I was the only woman there, but they didn't like shun me or anything. They welcomed me, and soon that grew and more came.
For sure. I think that like while being a girl nerd is definitely like more popularized nowadays. I like how Tara was saying about the representation of like ace and non-binary and and other sexualities and identities that haven't been represented as much. I find that like there are so many creators, like honestly, like I know more like divergent like creators that make stuff than like people who are straight and make stuff. Like if you're divergent, like you're like almost always a creator and you make really cool things. Your art is usually super rad. Like it's just not like people just don't know like it as much, but there are like especially like in Richmond and stuff like that, like you get into the artist communities and like everyone is very much their own super person and like are usually really incredible about artwork. It's just a shame that it's not like as mainstream. It's becoming more mainstream, although people in the mainstream are just mostly interpreting it as like like, oh, this is like forced diversity or something like along the lines of what they want to say. But like as people get older and as like power dynamics like start to shift, like I know that we're going to be seeing like more and more representation in all kinds of different ways that are much more accepted in the long run. I guess the long the short is to say that there are so many different kinds of creators out there, but like the only people who are really getting the jobs in creative wheels are generally like straight white like heteronormative men. But it's changing for sure.
That's what I was gonna say. I probably it's a lot better now than what it was a couple of years ago, but as far as like inward in like my community and the area and stuff like that, it's once you're in, like you're in. Once they find out that you love the stuff that they love, is no like black, white, male, female, gay, straight. It's just you love what I love you too. So I've always had that accepting persona when I meet other people that like the stuff that I like and love the stuff that I love. And I was going to say, I think it's just more mainstream that you don't really see that many women getting those big, director roles and those big features and stuff like that. So, but like you said, it is changing. I believe the new director of the Captain Marvel movie is going to be a woman. So yes, and she's black. So that is a big step in just getting our voices out there. Because come on, like we're amazing. So we should be able to get those roles. That way we can tell our point of view, because our point of views are just as great as the men. So it's nice that I'm actually starting to now currently in 2020 see more, embrace the woman's perspective and stuff like that. So it's exciting to see. I'm excited for the future, because like Tara said, we are evolving. So it's really, really nice to see and comforting to see.
I see, just like I said, I hang out with my kid when I go to cons. And my kids in their mid-20s now. And what I see with younger folks is so much more acceptance. I, as an older woman, I'm on the other side of 50. And
oh, you look good.
There's a business aspect to things. And so I will have people, male and female, they'll come and ask me for advice. And when it's a female, she listens. And we talk and we have this little discourse about whatever, and whether they take my advice or not, it's given as advice. I will have males come and talk to me and then disagree with me. I'm like, why the heck did you ask me for advice if all you're going to do is disagree with me and tell me I'm wrong? When I've been doing this for 10 years now. Published my first book 10 years ago, and more than 10 years ago now. So, and I'm telling you, I have at least 10 years of experience with this. You're getting on here to self-publish and to do your first novel, and I'm giving you information and I'm telling you where to go and how, and you're going to argue with me. I don't get that from women, but I will get that. And these are understand, this isn't 25-year-old men. They come to me and it's like I'm talking, please don't take it wrong, it's like I'm talking to an older woman, somebody, there's discourse. They listen. Men my age don't want to listen. I'm sorry. And so I am so happy to see younger men listening to people when they ask for advice. And it gives me so much hope for the future that I see this, 2 generations down, where you have all genders accepting and just saying, no, we're all equal, we're equal. If you've done something, that's valid, and I'm going to listen to you, which is something my generation still hasn't learned.
That's rough. That's so rough. Oh man, I am sorry. God, that's rough.
Somebody says, oh no, yeah, why do you bother with Instagram? Because there's readers. I mean, there's a whole bookstagram on Instagram that if you get into, you've got people who will then, there's bloggers, there's readers looking for it. Oh no, we just need a newsletter. How are you going to build a newsletter? Instagram. And I'm like, dude, come on, listen to me here.
God.
So,
God.
I read an article that said newsletter. Then go with the article. Why are you asking me?
Oh my goodness. Oh. Well, now I want to give you guys time to promote yourselves, and so we can, find out what you're working on now, what plans you have for the future, anything that you want us to check out of yours. Just feel free to tell us all about it.
Awesome. Well, cool. I'll drop my social media. You can find me on Instagram at Lionbird with a Y. I believe I changed my little name here so you could see it. I'm also on Twitter as well. I'm doing mostly like single artworks right now, single illustrations, but I do have a comic project in the works that is actually also my thesis project for my graduate program at ODU. And this is one of those things where I need to finish it because I have been working on it for a while. But for the thesis that I am turning in and defending, it will only be part of a long form comic and just the script of it. So I won't be drawing everything. That will take a very long time, much more time than I have for my program. But yes, so I'm working on that, and it's a science fiction story that pulls from a lot of critical theory, pedagogy theory, including some folks like bell hooks. I'll drop some names on a few of them, but and some philosophy of technology as well. So it's an intersection of these ideas, a world built from these theories from philosophers past that are not all white guys with beards.
Do they have objects for heads? Is that going to be a theme? Yes.
They do. It's a science fiction world where there are characters that are cyborg-like, and humans are long gone. And these creatures kind of run the world, and they don't know it, but they live and function based off of the algorithms that we created in our time.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Like our algorithms, they might be making some of the same mistakes we did. So
nice.
There's that. That's my very long pitch for that.
That's rad. That's really, really cool, Sarah. That's super cool. My handle is Saberdog Art. It's the one there, that everybody can see. I'm actually, God, I am so lost in the Star Wars fandom right now. It's like not even funny. I'm really, yes, I am very down that road right now, and I'm like working on a Star Wars fan fiction that's a rewrite of the last movie, and it's like 66,000 words in so far. But that's like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm putting a lot of work into it, and no one else should read it, except for strangers on the internet. But from like my art stuff, there is a comic that you can read right now on my Instagram highlights. It's very poorly rendered because I only gave like an hour a night for a couple months to work on it. And no, I'm not sharing a fanfic. Or not. But the comic or whatever that you can read on the Instagram, like right now, it's like 100 pages. It's called Half Bloom. It's a story about a girl who is a werewolf, but in the world that she lives in, everyone kind of grows into their monster, and she can't transform into a werewolf yet. And so she looks like this normal girl, like in a class full of like monsters, and she feels like the odd one out. There's like some kind of dark humor to it sometimes. If you think someone getting stabbed is funny, then this is the comic for you. It's black and white, and again, it's just on my Instagram handle. So thanks for hearing me out.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My Instagram is author _ KD Bond. Facebook is @Phantom Nights, and Twitter is author _ KD Bond. Currently, I have a 4-book series. It's an ongoing series right now called Phantom Night series. It's about a group of harpy females tasked with protecting humanity from creatures from their world, and their world is called Phantom. So on Phantom, it's demons, fairies, vampires, harpies, all types of paranormal creatures. And each harpy creature has a special ability. So my first book, the special ability, she has control over lightning. The second book, she has control over nightmares. The third book, she has control over fire. And the fourth book, she can teleport. So she has ability to teleport, and she can also conjure weapons from all over the universe. So it's really, really dope, and I'm excited to have that. That book is actually coming out in October. So you guys get to hear about that book first. I haven't released any details on that book, but that book's coming out in October. But currently, right now, I am working on a young adult version of that. So that's going to be my YA, and that's going to be a spinoff of the series that I'm working now. Is going to be called Phantom Night Chronicles. So it's just going to feature one of the creatures that they found in the universe. So she's going to be the star of this first book that I'm going to be writing now. And you can find that on Amazon, Lulu, Kobo, however, I'm on all the streaming services. So I'm very excited this next chapter of writing young adult. It's a little tricky because I'm so used to writing adult novels. So, but I'm definitely a couple of books in, so I think I've gotten my mojo right for this book, but I'm very excited to see how this goes. But I'm definitely excited. I love my series, and I've gotten so many great reviews, and I just think woman power is amazing. We can have superheroes and we can save the world. Okay, we don't need to be damsels in distress. All right.
And I guess it's my turn. This is the first book that I ever published. It's called Vampire Heritage. It's vampires in Victorian England. It's YA. My pen name is E.G. Gaddis. So anybody knows, my grandmother's maiden name is Gaddis. And my grandparents thought I should have been named Edwina Georgina. I am so happy I ended up a Tara. And then this is my steampunk YA, 2 girls. I got my non-binary trans person, book 2, and then the third one has my ace baby in it. And those all come out at Dream Press. You can go to dreampunk.com, you can order them. Or they're available from Amazon. All but one of the all of them except one of the steampunk is available in Kindle format. I have some stuff up as Tara Moellere. It's weird, so so if you happen to go, yes, I'm on Instagram and everything. There's Dreampunk Press, which is me. I also help publish other folks, so there's lots of great stuff on that website. But I'm also there as Tara Moellere, and there's some weird stuff that I wrote under my name. So just be prepared if you happen to decide to try one of those. And I'm working on again steampunk. I'm for a slightly older YA audience. It's done. We're working on the cover now, and that'll be coming out in January.
Dreampunk was the main one that you were talking about.
Which one?
Dreampunk, you said, is the main name
Dreampunk
to look
Press.
up. Dreampunk Press. Okay, cool. Nice.
And it's on Facebook and Instagram. It's got a website. It's on Twitter.
That's awesome. Very, very cool.
Put that in the chat really quick. Okay, there we go.
Nice. Helpful.
And if anybody watching has questions about writing, about how to find an editor, how to find somebody to do your cover, go ahead and message the Dreampunk Press. My kid does my covers. They do arts and graphics, and they do some really great work. But I've used other editors. I've used other cover people for not necessarily mine, but for, like I said, the other folks that I help publish. And I'm really, really happy to share my knowledge with folks. So Dreampunk Press is a collective with folks kind of, they do their own thing, and then we put it in one place to help with marketing. And so there's a single point of for people to go to. So, I've got there's a new author. If you're really into fantasy, J.M. Silverleaf, Creed of the 21 Dragons, Wyvern Knoll is out. And Dreampunk Press publishes in both a traditional font and an open dyslexic. So if you know somebody who is dyslexic and they have trouble reading, check out opendyslexic.org. You can download the font. They're on version 3. I get no money from this. I just think it's a lovely font. I have had people at conventions come up, open and go, oh, what's this? And one lady was there, and her husband is dyslexic, and he looked over her shoulder looking at it, and he goes, I'm not panicking. So she bought one of everything because it was an open dyslexic. But
that's so awesome.
And you can install it in your e-readers.
Very, very, very cool. That's wonderful. Awesome. That's rad as heck.
So I want to leave us some time for questions. So I'm just going to ask one last question, which is if you could give any advice to anyone who's just started creating, just started getting into the community, what would you say to them?
I think reflecting back on our conversation tonight, I think we've mentioned a few of these things. One of them is to find your people. And what that means to me is find the people that believe in you and stick with them. And I would also say for those that get random inspiration to write everything down and to organize it. That will help you finish all the things you started, which is really important.
Absolutely. If I was to give advice to someone who's new on the scene, particularly a creator, I would want to tell them that art is a long game, and like it super has its ups and super has its downs. But yeah, community is the number one thing that's going to keep you going. And oh, how do I find friends? Yeah, COVID is definitely not very helpful in the making friends department. But definitely start with like a fandom that you really like, because fandoms are really helpful, accessible ways to like get conversations going about something that you mutually like. That also, it's not you pitching yourself at someone, it's you enjoying something with somebody else. So like, if you're a writer who's looking to hire an artist or something like that, like kind of a thing, it's a lot easier to like just first like make friends in the general community while you're honing your craft before like trying to jump into like working with someone. So yeah, art is a long game. That's my takeaway.
Just to piggyback off of what everybody said or already said, just don't give up. Even if you feel like there's people in your close corner that may not be, cheering for you, do it anyway. Figure it out and just put pen and paper and just put your idea out. And there's something for everyone. So don't be discouraged or worrying about what your immediate friends or immediate family or may think or anything like that about it. There is someone for everyone. Like I said, I didn't meet my people until college. So there was no one I can really share all of the ideas and the thoughts that I had in my head until, I got to college and I found my people. And that's the same with my books. There's not really too many family and friends that I have. They support me. Luckily enough, I have that background where they support me, but, they're not going to be the people that buy my books. They're not going to be the people who quote unquote make me make it. It's the millions of people that are out there that actually like the stuff that I write. So don't write for your friends, or don't create for your friends, or don't create for your family. Create for yourself and the people who are going to love the same stuff that you love, because there's people out there that love the same stuff that you love. So you just got to find them. And if you aren't doing your projects, you're not going to find those people. So just do it. Don't worry about what anybody else says. Do it for yourself, and do it for the people who are hoping that they come across your work so they can not feel alone.
And then the last thing I think I'd like to add is don't be afraid when it's time to share it. Like Katie said, there's somebody who's going to like it. If you wrote it for yourself and you liked it, there's somebody that likes the same stuff you do. So just don't be afraid. Take that big breath and send it out into the world, and it'll survive. My first series, I had 20 people. They bought all 3. I had the very, very small fan base for Victorian vampire, Christian twist. But I found them. I found those young adults that liked it. And enough from me. So don't be afraid. There will always be people who turn their nose up and don't like it. But that's just their opinion. And remember that, and don't be afraid. It's beautiful because you made it. And don't be afraid.
It's beautiful.
I think it's all wonderful advice. I really appreciate all of you coming and speaking to us. And now I want to open it up to any questions that anyone has for these amazing women. So I'm gonna unmute you guys. Does anybody have any questions right now?
Where do you get your inspiration for the books that you write?
Well, my inspiration actually came from a dream that I had while I was pregnant. So the dream
God,
that I
pregnancy
had,
dreams.
yes, those pregnancy dreams,
Oh,
and
God.
it was so real. It was so real and so amazing, and it was long. And when I woke up, I remembered every detail. But like I said, I'm a reader. I started reading when I was 4. I never thought of writing, but I'm like, this was too amazing not to write down. So it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I just grabbed my laptop and I started writing notes on everything that I saw in the dream, like the people, what they look like, the world that I saw. It was just so amazing. And it wasn't until I met I showed my friend who was a author and an illustrator, and I showed it to her and she was like, you need to write this. I'm like, well, I don't know how to write. She was like, what do you mean? You've been reading for years. You can write it, just write it down. And she was right. And I just started writing from chapter 1, and then next thing I know, I look up and I got 10,000 words. So and that was going back to the like just start. Like I think Tara said something about that earlier. Don't worry about what it looks like. Don't worry about the spelling, the graphics, the colors. Don't worry about anything. Just go ahead and start and just write it down. And I just got everything that I thought off my chest. And of course, then you go and hire the editors to do that stuff for you. But that dream that I had was just, I honestly, I never thought it would evolve into something like this. So I'm very happy that I got pregnant. and it happened. So that was definitely my inspiration to, because no one else had that dream. So in order for me to tell that story and tell what an amazing story it was, I had to write it myself. So no one else would have been able to write it but me. So that was definitely my inspiration. So my son was definitely my inspiration.
That's great.
As a person who likes to do a lot of like creative things, how do you guys like find motivation or like get over artist block? Because I have that problem a lot sometimes.
I get that. So a lot of times, like what I do if I'm having artist block, like, you want to make something, you have no idea what. A lot of things that will help me is just to like make a list of stuff that I'm into at the moment, or just stuff that I like. And they don't have to relate to each other at all. And they can be themes, or they can be objects, or they can be like stuff that's on your mind. Just like whatever is like fresh, and then like combine it together. Like, pick 2 or 3 things like from the list and see what will happen whenever you jam them together. So like, for instance, like I used to be a barista, so I love, barista stories. I got into mopeds for like 2 seconds. I write that down. I am very angry at the world, so I write that down. Just a blitzkrieg of like whatever like makes your brain fire. And then like pick 2 to 3 of those things and say like, okay, well, what happens when I put a barista who's angry at the world on a moped? Go.
Awesome.
My inspiration tends to be community oriented. So I get inspired from prompts for things like Inktober. I know that they're doing like an Inktober 52, and there's all different kinds of prompts online that you can find that are out there. I also get motivated whenever I see a call like an anthology and there's a call for a story, and I'm like, oh man, I need to get on that. So whenever I see something in the community that kind of draws my eyes in, like, how can I be part of this?
Some of my writing has been reactionary to other people's writing. I've read, I'll read a book and I'll be like, well, that's not what I would have done in that situation. And so you put something down and it evolves into something completely different when you're done. And when I have writer's block, I'll have writer's block on a particular project. I usually have 5 different projects running at a time. And then including I'll have like a side editing job for a friend. So when I get to a blockage in one project, I'm like, okay, I just pick up another project and see where I was at in it. And some of those projects never get anywhere. They're never completed. They're never, you know, I kind of run out of steam on them, but they serve as a way to not stop the creativity, because sometimes a block is because you have to make a decision on what a character do and you don't know them enough yet, so you go work on something else and it helps you to work out, you know, what this other character would do, and they, you know, and then sometimes you're like, oh wait, I have a short story over here that's pretty good, you know, and it was simply an exercise in keeping creative juices flowing when I had a problem on a different project, a longer project, but then you've got something from that writer's block. So that's always something. And sometimes you need a break. Don't be scared if you do have a creative block. Sometimes it's like time to go for a walk, or just take a weekend and spend with friends or family, and or go to a museum when they're open, you know, maybe do a virtual tour at this point. But sometimes it's your brain telling you need to take a break. Try something else. Absorb somebody else's creative output for a while, and then you go back and you're like, oh, I'm refreshed, my batteries are recharged, and I can tackle it again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys so much again for being with us and being panelists on this. This was a fantastic talk. I really appreciate everything that you guys gave us and all the advice that you told us. So thank you so much again. And if there's anything that you want to leave us with in the chat so we can keep up with you guys or anything like that, feel free to add to what's already there. But thank you again for being here.
Thank you for hosting it. It was really
Thanks
fun.
for hosting.
Yeah, this was amazing.
It's definitely very
Awesome.
fun. Very cool. Well, it was really awesome meeting everyone. Definitely, if you follow me, I'll follow you back, you know, all that good stuff. Thank you guys very much. I hope you have a really great day. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Stay
Have a
safe,
good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Bye.